The cargo bay of the Dawn's Promise was never truly quiet, but today something felt different. The usual hum of the engine seemed louder in the absence of the small voice that normally filled the corridors with laughter. Day One noticed it immediately when he arrived for his shift. The Feliner engineer, a massive creature covered in silver fur, sat slumped against the wall outside the medical bay. His ears were flat against his head, a sign of distress that even humans had learned to recognize. "What happened?" Day One asked, setting down his equipment. The engineer looked up with large amber eyes that glistened with worry. "My daughter. Pip is sick. The doctor gave medicine, but she refuses. She will not eat. She will not drink. She only cries and sleeps." Day One had seen Pip many times during his 6 months aboard the ship. The small cub was barely 3 feet tall, with fur that sparkled like starlight when she ran through the corridors. She loved to chase the maintenance drones and play hide-and-seek with anyone who would join her. The crew adored her. She was the ship's heart, the reminder of what they all fought to protect out here in the cold darkness of space. Inside the medical bay, Captain Velther stood beside the small bed where Pip lay curled in a tight ball. The reptilian commander's scales were a dull gray, another sign of stress. The ship's doctor, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline form, hovered nearby with its light pulsing in patterns that suggested frustration. "The fever is not dangerous," the doctor's voice echoed from its crystal body. "But she needs to take the medicine. She needs to drink fluids. Without them, she will become weaker." Pip whimpered and buried her face deeper into the blanket. Her small body trembled. "Can we force her?" the captain asked, though his voice made it clear he hated the idea. "We could," the doctor replied. "But the trauma might make things worse. Young Feliner are sensitive. Force-feeding can cause psychological damage that lasts for years." Day One watched from the doorway. He had younger cousins back on Earth. He remembered his grandmother dealing with sick children who refused medicine. She had her ways. He thought about the small box he kept in his quarters, the one his grandmother had given him before he left Earth. "Take care of yourself," she had said, pressing the wooden box into his hands. "And take care of others. Tea can fix many things, Day One. Remember that." He had laughed then, thinking she was being dramatic. But now, watching the mighty warriors of space stand helpless before one small sick cub, he understood. Day One quietly left the medical bay and headed to his quarters. His room was small but comfortable, filled with pictures from home and a few plants he managed to keep alive under grow lights. He pulled out the wooden box from under his bed and opened it carefully. Inside were small containers of dried leaves, a jar of honey, pieces of dried ginger root, and a few other herbs his grandmother had packed. He gathered what he needed and returned to the cargo bay. In the corner, he had a small personal space where he took his breaks. There was a hot water dispenser that the ship's systems kept running for various purposes. He cleaned his ceramic cup and his small portable heating element, then began his work. First, he sliced thin pieces of ginger root and dropped them into the heating pot with water. As the water warmed, he added dried chamomile flowers and a bit of peppermint. The scent began to spread slowly through the cargo bay. Sweet and warm and somehow comforting, even in the recycled air of the ship, one by one. Crew members passing through the bay stopped and sniffed the air. A Gorthian security officer paused mid-step. "What is that smell?" he rumbled, his voice like grinding stones. "Just making tea," Day One replied, straining the liquid into his cup. He added honey and stirred, watching the golden sweetness swirl into the pale liquid. The security officer moved closer. "Tea? What is tea?" "A human drink. We make it from plants. It helps when someone is not feeling well." "The cub is not feeling well," the officer said quietly. "I know." Day One poured the tea into a second cup, a smaller one he usually used for cold drinks. He held it carefully as he walked back to the medical bay. The warm cup heated his hands pleasantly. By now, the entire ship seemed to know about Pip's condition. Crew members lined the corridor, watching with worried faces as Day One approached. Inside the medical bay, nothing had changed. Pip still lay curled up, occasionally making small crying sounds that broke everyone's heart. The doctor had dimmed its light to let her rest. Captain Velther sat in a chair, his head in his hands. Day One entered quietly. He did not approach Pip directly. Instead, he sat down on the floor a few feet away from her bed. He lifted his own cup to his lips and sipped slowly, making a small, satisfied sound. The aroma of the tea filled the small room, chasing away the sterile smell of medicine. Pip's ears twitched. Then her small nose emerged from under the blanket. Sniffing the air, Day-1 took another sip and set his cup down near him. He placed the smaller cup on the floor between himself and the bed, then leaned back against the wall and closed his eyes. He did not speak. He did not reach for her. He simply existed in the space, peaceful and calm, with the sweet smell of tea surrounding him. Several minutes passed. The captain watched in silence. The doctor's light pulsed with curiosity. Then, slowly, a small furry hand reached out from under the blanket. It touched the warm cup, pulled back, then touched it again. Pip's face emerged. Her eyes were heavy with fever, her fur was matted, but her nose was working overtime. Investigating this new, interesting smell, Day One opened his eyes and smiled at her gently. "Hello, little one. Would you like to try? It is sweet. It is warm. It helps the hurt go away." Pip looked at the cup, then at Day One, then back at the cup. Slowly, using both small hands, she lifted it to her mouth. She took a tiny sip, then her eyes widened. She took another sip, longer this time. Then another. "Not too fast," Day One said softly. "Small sips. Let your tummy wake up." Pip nodded and continued drinking, more slowly now. When the cup was half empty, she set it down and looked at Day One with those large amber eyes. "More?" she asked in a tiny voice. "Of course. But first, would you take your medicine? The medicine will help the tea work better." Pip considered this. Then she nodded. The doctor quickly brought the medicine forward, hardly daring to believe what was happening. Pip took the medicine without complaint, then reached for the tea again. She finished the cup while everyone watched in amazement. "Can I have more?" she asked again. Day One smiled. "Yes, but you must promise to rest after. Sleep is the best medicine of all. I promise." He returned to the cargo bay and made another cup of tea. When he brought it back, Pip was sitting up in bed, looking more alert. She drank the second cup more slowly, savoring it. By the time she finished, her eyes were drooping with natural sleepiness rather than fever exhaustion. "Thank you, Day One," she whispered as she curled back under the blanket. Within minutes she was asleep, but this time her breathing was steady and peaceful. Captain Velther stood and approached Day One. "What was that human magic?" he asked, his voice full of wonder. "Not magic," Day One replied, collecting the empty cups. "Just tea. My grandmother taught me. She said tea cannot fix everything, but it can fix many things. Sometimes being sick is scary. Sometimes we need something gentle and kind, not just medicine." The Felliner engineer approached and placed one massive paw on Day One's shoulder. "You gave my daughter back to me. I am in your debt." "No debt," Day One said, feeling embarrassed by the attention. "I am happy she feels better. That is enough." As he left the medical bay, the crew members in the corridor parted to let him through. They watched him with new eyes, these human eyes that saw a solution where they had seen only a problem. Word of what happened began to spread through the ship's communication systems, passed from crew member to crew member. Ship to ship, Day One returned to his cargo bay, washed his cups, and packed away his grandmother's tea supplies. He did not know that this simple act of kindness would change everything. He did not know that, within days, his peaceful life was about to become very complicated. All he knew was that a small cub was sleeping peacefully, and that was good enough for him. 3 days after Pip recovered, Hyun-woo sat in the communications room of the Dawn's Promise, working through his daily reports. As communications officer, it was his job to maintain contact with the other ships in their sector and relay important information to command. Usually this meant forwarding supply requests, navigation updates, and the occasional personal message between crew members on different vessels. Today was different. Today, everyone wanted to hear about the miracle cure. "Tell me again about the tea," came the voice of Lieutenant Ravish from the patrol ship Silent Wing. The insectoid warrior's voice crackled through the speaker, his mandibles clicking with interest. The human really healed the Feliner cub with plant water. Henwu sighed. This was the 5th time someone had asked him about it today. It is not a miracle cure. Day 1 just made tea. It helped Pip feel comfortable enough to take her actual medicine. That is all, but the cub was dying, Ravish insisted. She had a fever. She was not dying. The report said she refused all treatment. She was scared and uncomfortable. The tea helped her relax. Look, it is just something humans do. We drink tea when we are sick. It is warm, it tastes good. It makes us feel better. There is no magic involved. But Hyunwoo could tell that Ravish was not really listening. The lieutenant had already made up his mind about what happened. In his version of the story, Day 1 had performed some kind of human healing ritual that brought the cub back from the edge of death. Over the next week, the story grew bigger every time it was told. On the Thunder's Blade, a Gorthian warship, crew members spoke of the human who could cure any illness with his special plant mixture. On the science vessel Infinite Curiosity, researchers debated what chemical compounds in earth plants could have such powerful effects. On the supply station Outpost 7, traders began asking if anyone had samples of these miraculous human healing leaves. Day 1 himself knew nothing about any of this. He continued his work in the cargo bay, organizing supplies and running his routine checks. Pip visited him every day now, fully recovered and more energetic than ever. She would sit with him during his breaks and drink tea, usually chamomile with lots of honey, while she told him long, complicated stories about her toys and her friends and her father's work in engineering. "You make the best tea in the whole galaxy," she declared one afternoon. Her amber eyes serious, Day 1 laughed. "I make the only tea in this part of the galaxy, little one. There are not many humans out here." "Then we are lucky to have you," she said, and went back to her story about teaching a maintenance drone to play fetch, 2 weeks after the incident. The Dawn's Promise received a request to dock with the patrol ship Silent Wing for a routine inspection. This was not unusual. Ships were inspected regularly to ensure safety standards and proper cargo documentation. Captain Velther approved the docking, and Lieutenant Ravish came aboard with 2 of his officers. The inspection went smoothly. Everything was in order. But as they were finishing the paperwork in the captain's office, Ravish suddenly pressed one of his 4 hands to his thorax and made a pained sound. "Lieutenant?" Captain Velther stood up, concerned. "Are you ill?" Ravish's antennae drooped. "I have been experiencing discomfort, tightness in my thorax. Difficulty processing nutrition. I did not want to mention it, but—" He trailed off, looking genuinely distressed. "Our medical bay is available," the captain offered. No. I have seen doctors. They find nothing wrong. But I heard—" Ravish hesitated, his mandibles clicking nervously. "I heard you have a human aboard who understands healing." Day 1? Perhaps he could offer advice? Captain Velther's eyes narrowed slightly, but he nodded. "I will call him." 10 minutes later, Day 1 stood in front of the insectoid lieutenant, feeling confused. "You want medical advice? From me?" "I am a cargo specialist." "But you healed the Feliner cub," Ravish said. "I gave her tea." "That is not healing." "Please," Ravish's voice dropped lower. "The tightness is quite uncomfortable." Day 1 looked at Captain Velther, who gave a small shrug. "Well," Day 1 said slowly, "I could make you some tea. Sometimes peppermint helps with stomach discomfort. But if you are really sick, you should see your ship's doctor." "Tea would be acceptable," Ravish said quickly. So Day 1 made tea. He brewed peppermint leaves in hot water, added a small amount of honey, and presented it to the lieutenant in his cargo bay. Ravish took the cup carefully, sniffed it with his antennae, and took a small sip. His antennae shot straight up, quivering with what appeared to be delight. "This is extraordinary," Ravish whispered. He took another sip, then another. "The tightness is already lessening. The flavor is complex yet soothing. Human, you have a gift." Day one watched as the fierce patrol officer finished the entire cup with obvious pleasure. "Do you really feel better?" he asked. "Much better." "This is remarkable." May I have another cup?" Day one made him a second cup. And then, because Ravish's two officers looked interested, he made two more cups. By the time the patrol team left the Dawn's Promise, all three insectoids were carrying small containers of peppermint tea that Day one had quickly prepared for their journey back. "Thank you, healer," Ravish said formally before leaving. "You have done me a great service." "I'm not a healer," Day one protested. But the patrol team was already gone. After that, things became strange. The next day, a supply ship requested emergency docking. They had an officer experiencing unusual fatigue, who needed to consult with the human specialist aboard the Dawn's Promise. Day one made her chamomile tea. She drank 3 cups and declared herself cured. 2 days later, a maintenance crew arrived to fix a problem with the ship's external sensors. One of them mentioned experiencing tension headaches and wondered if the human might have a solution. Day one made him ginger tea. The maintenance worker sat in the cargo bay for an hour, drinking slowly and chatting with Day one about his family back on his homeworld. By the end of the 3rd week, Day one had served tea to 15 different visitors from 7 different ships. All of them claimed various ailments. All of them left feeling much better. None of them actually seemed very sick to begin with. Hyung-woo finally told Day one what was happening. "They are not sick," he explained, trying not to laugh. "They just want to try the famous human tea." "Then why lie about being sick?" Day one asked, genuinely confused. "Because they are warriors and scientists and officers. They cannot just ask for a pleasant drink. That would seem frivolous. But if they are seeking treatment for an ailment, then it is official business." Day one sat down slowly, processing this information. "So they are faking illness? To drink tea?" "Yes, that is ridiculous. That is what is happening." Day one looked at his small collection of tea supplies, which was rapidly running low. He had brought enough for himself for a year, maybe 2 if he was careful. At this rate, he would be out in a month. "I need to send a message to Earth," he said. "I need my grandmother to send more tea." That night he composed a message to his family. He tried to explain the situation, but even as he wrote the words, they seemed unbelievable. Aliens were pretending to be sick so they could drink tea. The warriors who fought pirates and explored dangerous space were lining up for cups of chamomile and peppermint. His grandmother's response came 3 days later, sent via the long-range communication network. It was a video message, and when Day one played it, his grandmother's smiling face filled the screen. "My dear Day one," she said in Korean, her eyes twinkling. "I told you tea can fix many things. I am sending you 5 boxes of supplies on the next cargo ship to your sector. Share it wisely. Tea is meant to be shared. It brings people together. Even in space, this truth remains." She paused, then added, "And Day one? Be patient with them. They are not faking illness because they want to trick you. They are doing it because they do not know how else to ask for a moment of peace. Give them that gift. It costs you nothing but time and kindness." The message ended. Day one sat in the quiet of his quarters, thinking about his grandmother's words. He thought about Ravish, the fierce insectoid warrior, sitting in the cargo bay and carefully sipping peppermint tea while his antennae quivered with pleasure. He thought about the maintenance worker who had talked for an hour about missing his children. He thought about Pip, who still visited every day for tea and stories. Maybe his grandmother was right. Maybe they were not asking for tea at all. Maybe they were asking for something deeper that they did not have words for. The next morning, when a scout ship requested docking for a crew member experiencing mysterious aches, Day one did not question it. He simply prepared the tea and welcomed his guest with a smile. Admiral Krentok of the Kravik species did not become fleet commander by ignoring unusual patterns. He sat in his office aboard the flagship Eternal Vigil, reviewing reports that made less sense the more he read them. Over the past month, 17 ships in his sector had filed medical consultation requests with the cargo vessel Dawn's Promise. That ship had no specialized medical facilities. It had a standard doctor and a basic med bay, nothing that should warrant such attention, yet the requests kept coming. And stranger still, every crew member who visited the Dawn's Promise returned claiming to be healed of various ailments. But when their own ship doctors examined them, there was no evidence they had been sick in the first place. "This is either fraud or conspiracy," Krentok growled to his second-in-command. His thick-scaled hide darkened with suspicion, a sign of deep thought among his people. "Someone on that vessel is distributing unauthorized medication, or worse, some kind of addictive substance. Should we investigate?" His second asked. "Yes, but carefully. If they are running illegal pharmaceuticals, we need evidence before we act," said Jiwoo. "She is human like the suspect. She will understand human deception better than we would." Jiwoo received her orders with some confusion. She was a medical officer, not an investigator, but she understood the Admiral's concerns. She had heard the rumors spreading through the fleet about the human healer on the Dawn's Promise who could cure any illness. It did sound suspicious. She packed her medical scanner and diagnostic equipment, then boarded a shuttle to the Dawn's Promise. The journey took 6 hours. During that time, she reviewed everything known about Day 1. Age 28, from South Korea on Earth. Cargo specialist with 2 years of service, no previous medical training, no criminal record, no complaints or concerns on his service file. He seemed perfectly ordinary. When she arrived, Captain Velther greeted her personally. "Welcome, Officer Jiwoo. The Admiral informed me of your investigation. I assure you we have no illegal activities aboard this ship." "I am sure," Jiwoo replied politely, "but I must do my duty." "Of course. Where would you like to start?" "I would like to observe the medical consultations that Day 1 conducts." The captain's scaled face twisted into what might have been amusement. "He's in the cargo bay now." "There is a line?" "A line." Jiwoo followed the captain through the ship's corridors. As they approached the cargo bay, she began to smell something strange but pleasant. Sweet and herbal, with hints of flowers and spices. The scent grew stronger as they walked. They turned the final corner and Jiwoo stopped in her tracks. A line of crew members from various ships stretched down the corridor. A massive Gorthian warrior who could probably crush a shuttle with his bare hands. 3 slender Etherian scientists with their distinctive blue skin. 2 Kravik soldiers in full armor. A Feliner engineer who looked vaguely familiar. All of them waiting patiently. "What is happening?" Jiwoo asked. "Tea time," Captain Veltha replied. And this time there was definitely amusement in his voice. Jiwoo approached the cargo bay entrance and looked inside. Day 1 sat on a simple stool next to a small heating unit. He was pouring steaming liquid from a ceramic pot into a cup. A Gorthian warrior sat across from him on a cargo crate, holding a tiny cup that looked ridiculous in his massive hands. "The ache started 2 days ago," the Gorthian was saying, his voice like distant thunder. "In my lower back. Very uncomfortable. Have you been lifting heavy objects?" Day 1 asked, his tone gentle and concerned. "I am a security officer. I lift heavy objects every day." "Then your back is probably just tired. This is ginger and turmeric tea. It helps with inflammation. Sip it slowly. And try to stretch before you lift next time." The Gorthian accepted the cup with both hands, treating it like precious cargo. He sipped, and his stone-like features softened. "This is very good. I am glad you like it." We watched this exchange with growing confusion. She saw no drugs changing hands. No suspicious substances. Just tea. Actual tea, made from earth plants. The Gorthian finished his cup, thanked Day 1 with deep sincerity, and left looking more relaxed than any Gorthian warrior should ever look. The next person in line entered. An Etherian scientist who claimed to be experiencing mental fatigue from excessive research. Day 1 made her a different tea, something with a sharper scent. They talked about her research while she drank. She left smiling. This pattern continued for 2 hours. Jiwoo watched from the doorway as Day One served tea to 12 different people. Each person described symptoms. Each person received tea and conversation. Each person left looking peaceful and satisfied. Finally, the line ended. Day One began cleaning his equipment, carefully washing each cup by hand. Jiwoo stepped into the cargo bay. "Officer Jiwoo," Day One said, looking up. "Captain Velther told me you were coming. I suppose you want to know what I am doing?" "Yes," Jiwoo replied. "The Admiral thinks you might be distributing illegal substances." Day One laughed, but not unkindly. "Let me show you my illegal operation." He pulled out a wooden box from under his workstation and opened it. Inside were small containers of dried leaves, roots, and flowers. "This is chamomile. This is peppermint. Ginger root, lavender, green tea. Black tea, jasmine, all from Earth, all legal. All just plants." Jiwoo picked up one container and opened it. Dried chamomile flowers. She had seen them 1,000 times back home. "You are just making tea?" "Just tea. My grandmother sent me these supplies. I've been making tea for people who visit." "That is all? But they claim you heal them." "I do not heal anyone. I make them tea. If they feel better afterward, that is good. But I am not a doctor. I am not even pretending to be a doctor." Jiwoo studied his face. He seemed genuine. Not defensive or nervous, just tired and a bit confused by all the attention. "Why do they keep coming?" "I wish I knew," Day One admitted. "At first, I thought they really were sick, but then Hyun-woo told me they are mostly faking their symptoms. I think they just want to try tea. Or maybe they want a break from their duties. I'm not sure." "Why do you keep serving them if you know they are faking?" Day One was quiet for a moment, considering the question. "Because it makes them happy. And it costs me nothing. I have time. I have tea. Why not share it?" Jiwoo felt something shift in her understanding. She looked around the cargo bay with new eyes. This was not a criminal operation. This was not even a medical practice. This was just a kind human sharing a small piece of his culture with aliens who had never experienced it before. "Can I try some?" she asked. Day One's face brightened. "Of course. What do you like? Floral? Earthy? Spicy? Surprise me." He prepared tea with practiced ease. Jasmine flowers and lavender, steeped in hot water, sweetened slightly with honey. He poured it into a clean cup and handed it to her. The steam carried the scent of earth gardens and peaceful afternoons. Jiwoo took a sip. It had been 2 years since she left. Earth? 2 years of duty and responsibility and the endless black of space? The tea tasted like home, like her mother's garden in spring, like lazy weekends with no emergency calls. She felt tension leaving her shoulders that she had not even known was there. "Oh," she said softly. "Good?" Day One asked. "Yes." She took another sip, letting the warmth spread through her. And suddenly she understood everything. These warriors and scientists and officers, they spent their lives in cold metal ships, surrounded by duty and danger. They came from cultures that valued strength and stoicism. They could not admit they were tired or lonely or homesick, but they could claim they were sick. They could request medical consultation. And then they could sit in this quiet cargo bay and drink tea and feel, just for a moment, like they were allowed to be soft. Jiwoo stayed for another hour. She drank 2 cups of tea and talked with Day One about Earth, about his grandmother, about why tea mattered in human culture. He explained that tea was about taking time to pause, to be present, to connect with another person. It was never really about the drink itself. When she finally left the Dawn's Promise, she went directly to the flagship. Admiral Krentok received her in his office, his expression stern. "Report," he demanded. "There is no illegal activity," Jiwoo said. "Day One is making tea. Actual tea from earth plants. Nothing more." "Tea? Just tea?" "Yes, sir. Then why are my crew members claiming to be healed?" Jiwoo chose her words carefully. "Sir, I believe they are experiencing psychological relief rather than physical healing." The ritual of tea drinking provides them with a legitimate excuse to take a break, to sit quietly, to talk about their concerns. Many of them are from cultures where admitting weakness is shameful. The medical consultation gives them permission to be vulnerable. Krentok's scales darkened further as he processed this. They are faking illness to drink plant water and talk? Essentially, yes, that is ... The Admiral paused, searching for words. Ridiculous, yes, sir, but not illegal. No, sir. Krentok leaned back in his chair. It creaked under his weight. What is your medical opinion, Officer Jiwoo? Is this tea beneficial or harmful? Jiwoo thought about the peaceful cargo bay, about the warriors and scientists and officers who left looking more relaxed than when they arrived, about the taste of jasmine and lavender and home. It is beneficial, sir. Very beneficial. The human is providing a service we did not know we needed. The message came through standard channels. The Dawn's Promise was being reassigned to Outpost Kepler 7 for routine resupply and maintenance. This was normal. Ships rotated through the major outposts every few months for supplies, crew rest, and system checks. Captain Velther acknowledged the order and set course for the station. What happened next was not normal at all. Within 6 hours of the announcement, Station Command at Kepler 7 began receiving docking requests. First a few, then a dozen, then more than they could count. Ships from across the sector suddenly needed to dock at the station. Patrol vessels claimed they needed fuel. Science ships required equipment. Cargo haulers requested maintenance. Warships cited crew rest requirements. By the time the Dawn's Promise arrived at the station 2 days later, 43 vessels were queued in orbit, waiting for docking clearance. This is unprecedented, Commander Turk of Station Command said over the communication channel. His 6 eyes blinked in confusion. We have never had this much traffic at once. Captain Velther, do you know what is causing this? Captain Velther looked at Day 1, who stood in the bridge looking absolutely horrified. I have a theory, the captain replied, but you will not believe it. Day 1 had realized what was happening as soon as he saw the ship count. They had all come for tea. 43 ships? Thousands of crew members, all waiting for him. This is madness, he whispered. I cannot serve tea to thousands of people. I am one person. I have one heating unit. I have limited supplies. Perhaps you should have thought of that before you became famous, Captain Velther said, but his tone was gentle. Almost amused, the Dawn's Promise docked at the station. Before Day 1 could even finish organizing his supplies, the requests started coming in. Official requests filed through proper channels, all citing medical consultations needed. Urgently. The first request claimed acute beverage deficiency syndrome, the second mentioned thermal liquid requirement disorder. The third simply stated need tea immediately. Day 1. Read these requests with his head in his hands. They are not even trying to sound believable anymore. Hanwoo burst into the cargo bay, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. Have you seen the medical reports? Chronic absence of hot leaf water exposure. Someone filed that. Actually filed that through official channels. This is not funny, Day 1 said, though he felt a laugh building in his own chest. It is extremely funny. The station commander is losing his mind. There are warships out there claiming their entire crew needs medical attention. I cannot serve everyone. I know, but they do not care. They all want to try the famous human tea. Word spread through the station quickly. Day 1's location. The fact that he was real. The fact that he was actually making tea. The line that formed outside the cargo bay stretched through 3 corridors and down to the docking level. Station security had to manage traffic flow to prevent crowding. Day 1 looked at the line and felt overwhelmed. Then he felt angry. These were not sick people. They were just curious. They were wasting his time and supplies for entertainment. He was about to announce that he was closing the cargo bay when someone knocked on the door frame. He turned to see Beora, captain of the human military cruiser Resolute Dawn. She was grinning widely, her entire bridge crew standing behind her. Day one, she said, her voice full of delight. I heard you accidentally conquered the fleet with hot leaf juice. I had to see this myself. Despite his frustration, Day one smiled. Bora was a legend among human spacers. She had commanded the Resolute Dawn for 8 years, protecting human colonies and trade routes. She was tough and smart and absolutely fearless. Captain Bora, this is chaos. I do not know what to do. She walked into the cargo bay and surveyed the situation. The line of waiting crew members. The small heating unit. The single human trying to serve tea to thousands. She started laughing, the kind of deep belly laugh that made everyone around her smile. This is the most human thing I have ever seen, she said, wiping tears from her eyes. We go into space with our technology and our weapons and our grand plans. And what actually matters? You weaponized hospitality. I did not mean to, Day one protested. I know. That makes it better. Buara's expression turned more serious. But you are right. You cannot serve everyone alone. Let me help. My crew can help. You would do that? Of course. You are human. We take care of each other. Besides, she grinned again, I want to see the look on the Gorthian commander's face when he tries chamomile. The Ora's bridge crew jumped into action. They helped set up additional heating stations using equipment from the ship's galley. They organized the line, giving out numbers so people could wait in comfort rather than standing in the corridor. They even started taking orders, asking what kind of symptoms people wanted to cure so they could prepare the appropriate tea. Symptoms of not having tried tea yet, one Kravik soldier said seriously. Coming right up. Biora replied without missing a beat. The operation transformed from chaos into organized efficiency. With 5 people preparing tea instead of 1, the line began to move. Day 1 focused on the actual brewing, making sure each pot was properly steeped. Biora and her crew handled serving and conversation. Warriors came through claiming headaches. Scientists described fatigue. Engineers mentioned sore muscles. Each person received their tea and sat in the cargo bay for a few minutes, drinking slowly, talking quietly with the humans or each other. Then they left looking peaceful, and the next person came in. Hours passed. Day 1's supplies dwindled faster than he expected. He sent an emergency message to his grandmother asking for more, but it would take weeks for a shipment to arrive. He started rationing, making each pot stretch further. Using less tea per cup. By evening, over 200 people had received tea. The line outside was still long. Day 1's hands were cramping from holding the pot. His voice was hoarse from talking. But he kept going because what else could he do? These people had traveled here hoping for tea. He could not turn them away. That was when Admiral Krentok arrived. The crowd parted as the massive Kravik commander entered the cargo bay. He wore full dress uniform, his scales polished to a dark shine. He looked at the operation with stern eyes, taking in every detail. Human Day 1, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. Admiral, Day 1 said, standing quickly. I can explain. I am experiencing command stress, Krentok announced. It is a serious condition. I require consultation. Day 1 stared at him. Biora's eyes went wide. The entire cargo bay fell silent. The Admiral, the most powerful military commander in the sector, had just claimed to need tea. Day 1 looked at his supplies. He had maybe enough for 20 more cups before he ran out completely. He could save some for himself. He could ration it carefully over the next weeks. Or he could serve it to the Admiral and run out sooner. He chose kindness. Please sit, Admiral. Command stress is very serious. I have something special for you. Day 1 used the last of his black tea leaves, the good ones his grandmother had sent from her personal collection. He added cinnamon and just a touch of honey. He brewed it carefully, making sure the temperature was perfect. When he poured it into a cup, the scent filled the cargo bay with warm spices and earth and comfort. Admiral Krentok accepted the cup with both hands. He looked at it for a long moment, then took a sip. His expression changed. The sternness melted away, replaced by something softer, almost vulnerable. This is ... He paused, searching for words. This is peace in a cup. Yes, Day One said quietly. That is what tea is. The Admiral took another sip, then another. He drank the entire cup slowly, savoring every drop. When he finished, he set the cup down gently and looked at Day One with new understanding. Human, he said, his voice softer than Day One had ever heard it. Your people possess something we did not know we were missing. This tea, it is not medicine for the body. It is medicine for the spirit. You have given us permission to rest. To be vulnerable. To admit we need moments of peace. I just made tea, Day One replied. No, you did more than that. You showed us that strength and softness are not opposites. That warriors can appreciate flowers and herbs. That taking time to rest makes us better at our duties, not worse. The Admiral stood. Thank you, Day One. You have taught this old soldier something valuable. He left the cargo bay. The watching crowd erupted into excited chatter. If the Admiral could admit to needing tea, then anyone could. The line outside doubled. Day One looked at Ba helplessly. I am out of tea. She put a hand on his shoulder. Then we tell them the truth. And we figure out a better solution. Because this, she gestured at the waiting crowd, this is not going away. You started something important, Day One. Something that matters. We just need to make it sustainable. That night, exhausted and out of supplies, Day One sent another message to Earth, not just to his grandmother this time, but to the Human Cultural Exchange Office. He explained the situation. He explained what tea had done for the fleet. He explained that he needed help. The response came faster than he expected. Request acknowledged. Solution in development? Stand by. Day One did not know what solution they meant. He only knew that he had run out of tea and hundreds of people were still waiting for their first cup. He had created a problem he could not solve alone. 6 weeks after the chaos at Outpost Kepler-7, Ambassador Sujin arrived at the station aboard a diplomatic vessel. She was a tall woman with gray hair and kind eyes, the kind of person who looked like she should be teaching school children rather than negotiating treaties. But she had spent 30 years in diplomatic service, and she understood how cultures worked. She requested a meeting with Admiral Krentok, Captain Velther, Captain Boera, and Day One. They gathered in a conference room on the station, curious about why Earth would send an ambassador for what seemed like a minor cultural incident. Gentlemen, ladies, Sujin began, settling into her chair. I have reviewed all reports about the tea situation. I have read medical analyses, psychological evaluations, and approximately 200 personal testimonies from crew members who experienced Day One's tea service. My conclusion is simple. We have discovered something important. With respect, Ambassador, Admiral Krentok rumbled. It is just tea. Sujin smiled. That is what everyone keeps saying. But if it was just tea, we would not have 43 ships abandoning their post to queue for it. If it was just tea, you would not have warriors inventing fake medical conditions. If it was just tea, I would not be here. She activated a holographic display showing data across multiple screens. In the 6 weeks since Day One started serving tea regularly, we have seen measurable changes across the fleet. Stress levels down by 32%. Interpersonal conflicts down by 27%. Crew satisfaction up by 41%. Medical visits for anxiety and depression cut in half. The room fell silent as they processed these numbers. Tea did this? Captain Velther asked. Not the tea itself, Sujin explained. The ritual around tea, the permission to rest, the moment of connection with another being. Day One created something your cultures did not have, a legitimate reason to be gentle. She pulled up another screen showing cultural analysis. Most of the species in this fleet come from warrior backgrounds. Strength is valued. Vulnerability is weakness. But everyone needs moments of rest. Everyone needs permission to set down their burdens, even briefly. The medical consultation excuse gave your people that permission. Admiral Krentok's scales darkened with thought. You are saying we have a cultural gap? Exactly. And humans can help fill it. We have thousands of years of rest rituals, tea ceremony, coffee breaks, meditation practices, afternoon tea. We understand the importance of pause. So what do you propose? Beora Sujin's smile widened. I propose we establish human rest stations throughout the fleet. Small spaces on ships and stations where crew members can go for tea service. Not medical bays, not hospitals. Just quiet places where someone will make them tea and listen if they want to talk. That would require many humans, the Admiral said. We have volunteers. When word of Day 1 situation reached Earth, over 5,000 humans applied to serve in the fleet. They called themselves T-Corps, teachers, retired grandparents, artists, counselors, people who understand hospitality and want to help. Day 1 finally spoke. 5,000 people want to serve tea in space? 5,000 want to do what you did, Sujin replied gently. Share kindness. Create moments of peace. Connect with other species. You showed us something valuable, Day 1. You showed us that humans have something to offer beyond military might or scientific knowledge. We offer comfort. She pulled up plans for the rest stations. Small rooms with comfortable seating, heating stations for tea, soft lighting. Nothing fancy or expensive. Just peaceful spaces. But there is another element, Sujin continued. My colleague on Earth, Young-ho, wants to speak with you. The holographic display changed to show a video feed. A man in his 50s appeared, standing in what looked like a traditional Korean tea house. He bowed respectfully. Admiral, Captains, Day 1, Young-ho greeted them. I am a tea merchant. My family has been selling tea for 8 generations. When I heard about what happened in the fleet, I knew I wanted to help. I am prepared to supply tea to every rest station at cost. No profit. This is not business. This is cultural exchange. That is very generous, Admiral Krentok said slowly. It is necessary, Young-ho replied. For too long, humans have taken from space. Minerals, territory, resources. Let us also give something back. Something gentle. Something kind. The discussion continued for 2 hours. They talked about logistics, training, cultural sensitivity. How would the rest stations work? What if people abused them? How would they ensure quality tea service? Sujin had answers for everything. The program would start small. 5 rest stations initially on major ships and outposts. Human volunteers would be trained not just in tea service, but in basic counseling and cross-cultural communication. The stations would be open to anyone, no appointment needed, no questions asked. One rule only, Sujin said. When someone enters a rest station, they can say anything or nothing. The human serving tea will not judge, will not report, will not pressure. They will simply listen and offer tea. Complete confidentiality unless someone is in immediate danger. You are creating sanctuaries? Captain Velther observed. Yes, every warrior culture has them. Temples, meditation halls, sacred groves. We are just making them mobile and stocking them with tea. Admiral Krentok was quiet for a long time. Everyone waited while he thought, his scales shifting through various shades of gray. Finally he spoke. I approve this program. We will establish 5 rest stations as Ambassador Sujin suggested. We will evaluate results after 6 months. If it works, we expand. If it fails, we end it with no shame to anyone. Thank you, Admiral, Sujin said, bowing slightly. Thank one condition, Krentok added. Day 1 must lead the program. He understands what this is really about. Not tea, connection. Day 1 felt everyone's eyes turn to him. I am just a cargo specialist. You are the human who taught a fleet of warriors that gentle moments make us stronger, the Admiral said. Will you accept this duty? Day 1 thought about his grandmother, about the wooden box of tea she had given him, about little Pip healthy and happy now, about the hundreds of people he had served, each one leaving with lighter shoulders and softer eyes. Yes, he said. I will do it. The next 6 months transformed the fleet. Rest stations appeared on the Eternal Vigil, the Dawn's Promise, the Resolute Dawn. Outpost Kepler 7 and Station Meridian. Human volunteers arrived, trained by Day 1 in both tea service and the deeper philosophy behind it. Tea is not about tea, he told them in training. It is about creating a space where people feel safe, where they can set down their masks, where they can admit they are tired or scared or lonely. The volunteers came from all backgrounds: grandmothers who had raised large families, artists who understood creating beauty in small moments, former therapists looking for new purpose, young people seeking adventure but wanting to help rather than fight. Each one learned not just how to brew tea, but how to listen, how to sit with silence, how to offer comfort without words, how to recognize when someone needed to talk and when they needed to be alone with their thoughts. The rest stations became beloved quickly. Warriors stopped pretending to be sick. They simply came to the stations during off-duty hours. "I need a break," they would say, and no one questioned it. They would sit in the quiet spaces, drink their tea, and exist without duty for just a little while. Pip became Day 1's unofficial apprentice. At 7 years old, she was still too young for official duties, but she helped anyway. She greeted visitors, learned the names of different teas, and had a particular gift for making nervous first-timers feel welcome. "The secret is smiling," she told Day 1 seriously one day. "When you smile, they know they are safe." 9 months after the program started, Day 1 stood in the rest station on the Dawn's Promise, preparing for the evening shift. The station had been built in what used to be a storage room. Now it had comfortable seating, soft lights, and shelves lined with tea containers from Earth. The walls were painted in warm colors. There were plants growing under special lamps, filling the space with life. Captain Velther entered, looking tired. He sat down without speaking. Day 1 prepared green tea with jasmine, the captain's usual preference. He served it and sat down across from him. They sat in silence for 10 minutes. Finally, the captain spoke. "I received news from my homeworld today. My parent is ill. Very ill. I cannot leave my post, but I want to be there." "I am sorry," Day 1 said quietly. "There is nothing to be done. Duty is duty." Velther took a sip of tea. "But I needed to sit here. To admit that it hurts. To say it out loud to someone who would not judge me for having feelings. Feelings do not make you weak. My people believe they do. Your people are learning otherwise." Day 1 refilled the captain's cup. "You come here every week. So do half your crew. Because you are learning that rest makes you stronger. That acknowledging pain lets you move past it." Velther nodded slowly. "The humans taught us this. With tea and kindness." "The tea is just tea," Day 1 replied. "But the kindness, that is important." They sat together until the captain's cup was empty and his shoulders no longer carried quite so much weight. When he left, he thanked Day 1 quietly and returned to his duties. That night, Day 1 sent a message to his grandmother. He told her about the rest stations,